right, we are live with this next conversation. I'm Christina, I'm from the organizing team of Earth Action Hub, and it's great that you've all tuned in. We'll be discussing different perspectives on how environmental education can be a strategy for conserving biodiversity. And for this conversation, Joana Rodriguez Pedro from Portugal will be facilitating. Thank you very much for that. She's a long-term alumni from the Young Reporters for the Environment program, so it's yeah, I'm super grateful for her to be here. She's here with Elliott and Daniela Rato. I'm also really excited to hear from you. But with that, I'll pass it on to Joana, and yeah. Feel free to start the conversation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us all three here talking about such an important topic. So to start, I would say present ourselves. So I'll start. I am 23 years old and I'm a young reporter for the environment involved with the project since 2011 in school, and now in the university I still keep interested in environmental issues and especially conservation. So that's why we are here today to talk about education on conservation and how important it is. So now Elliott and Daniela, feel free to present yourselves a little bit, talk to us about yourselves, please.
Okay, I can go first. My name is Daniela, I'm 26 and I'm from Portugal also. I have a master's in biological conservation, and I'm currently working as an environmental educator at Lisbon Zoo and also at a school. So I have a program with young children in schools to do environmental education. So I'm particularly interested in children and how we can bring these issues to them and empower them to make a change.
Okay, great. Thank you, Elliott.
I'm Elliott. I'm 25. I'm from Singapore. I'm an environmental studies graduate. I'll be starting work for WWF soon. So my passion is in photography and basically raising awareness for biodiversity through my photos and also through nature guiding and other ways.
Okay, so thank you so much, both of you. So maybe we'll start. So for an education program to achieve a more long-lasting effect, I would say that the objective is to in conservation to get a change in attitude and behavior. But that sometimes isn't that easy as we would like it to be. And some recent studies even say that having the knowledge and raising the awareness is sometimes not enough to alone create a behavior change in conservation issues, but attitudes can change more easily. So this change in attitude and behavior is the goal, I would say, that we would like to achieve in a perfect world. So I would like to know, what do you think about why is there a need for positive environmental education to be so effective? Maybe Elliott, can you start, please?
Sure. I think there is really a need for positive environmental education because we see a lot of shock tactics being used, or like news that many people will find depressing, like we're losing animals, we're losing this amount of habitat. But this can make people feel like they're pretty helpless and that they can't do anything about it. So I feel personally that we need a mix of both. So to show people the problem, right, shock them a bit, but also tell them what's going right and also what they can do. And this is what positive environmental education for me is about. It's telling them there are so many people doing wonderful things and this is what you can do to help us. And there's still hope for this world. Like, we haven't totally destroyed it yet. It's still here. And yeah, we should all work together.
Great, thank you. So hope as a tool for having this positive environmental education is a real interesting thought. So Daniela, what do you think about this?
Okay, so as you said perfectly, to achieve behavioral change, we need not only scientific knowledge, but also the emotional domain. It's extremely important, and it's throughout emotions that we bring people into changing the world, I guess, because it's throughout emotion that people feel connected. We will only protect what we love. We will not protect something that I think about this from a kid's point of view. So the first time that they're hearing about an issue, we don't want them to be hopeless, like Elliott was saying. And okay, so this is really dramatic, and it's the first time that I'm hearing about it. There's nothing I can do about that. No, we want them to feel passionate, and the positive environmental education can do that. So we can bring children to love the planet. We can bring people from all ages to love the planet, and throughout that, we can make a long-lasting positive change, because it is proven, and several studies point that out, that when you shock people, like Elliott was saying, maybe for one of two things will happen. One way is they will feel shocked and they will, okay, there's nothing we can do about it, and that's really bad. The other way that it can go is that people will actually make a change, but a small, short-lasting change, because our brain tends to forget the negative feelings, because it's like a survival method. You don't want it, we don't want to be there. So if we do positive change, that has a long-lasting effect into people's lives. So that's the goal, just bring passion into nature.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's a great point of view to have. So not only think about the negative part, and try to focus on the positive ones and use that as a tool. Definitely, and not only for conservation, but for our lives in a lot of ways. So taking that part where you Daniela talked about children, but also older people. So when we think about education, sometimes we think education in schools, formal education, but it has been talked about that not only formal education can be used as a tool, we can also use non-formal education, and it can be a real good supplement to deliver knowledge through local organizations, or even, for example, the zoo where Daniela works, and have a more immediate impact on people's ideas and minds. So education, both formal and informal, is widely used for conservation intervention. And I would like to know, what do you think about the importance of each one of these, and how they are so different and so important? So please feel free to give us your idea.
Okay, do you want me to get started, or Elliott? Maybe Elliott.
So you can start.
Sure.
Okay.
Daniela.
So yeah, I'm going to start. So yeah, I work a mix of both, so formal education and non-formal education, and I truly believe that they are complementary. So they work well together, and we need a very defined strategy for both of them. Non-formal education has the benefit of really appealing to children's emotions, because often we are bringing them out of the classroom and they are experiencing nature firsthand, and that is extremely important for them to feel connected. And non-formal education has a very important role in that. But in the other hand, more formal education really appeals to their scientific knowledge, and often we have a teacher that is with that student or with other people in a formal context for a much longer period of time. And in non-formal education, like at the zoo or at a organizations program, it's only in that specific moment. So when you have that long-lasting relationship, a personal relationship with the people that you're educating, you can bring more to the table. So you need to be consistent. I think that it's a formal line, and everyone should, that every teacher should engage, and every educator. And then in the non-formal education perspective, you can go to museums, you can go to the zoo, you can, like Elliott is bringing its students, I guess you'll talk about it. You can really connect people in a different way. So I think they are complementary.
Yeah, I think everything that Daniela said is correct, and I really agree with that. The main difference for me between formal and non-formal education is that I feel like formal education is very good for giving people a big picture view of everything, right? The scientific basics to understand why the environment is important, why our biodiversity is important. But non-formal education, like in the form of nature walks, or like bringing people out into nature, that is, if not as equally important or more important than formal education, because that's when they actually see the animals close up. That's when you can see how whole ecosystem works. You can see how animals are designed to live in harmony with each other and why they need each other for a healthy ecosystem. And you can also show them, right, why this is so important to us as a society. When you go and bring people to forests, you can see how many people use it and the different types of users there. And then that's when people, not just children, but also people of all ages, they can see the value that it has to them. And this is not just in terms of like recreation or monetary value, but sometimes when you walk into a forest, there's just this feeling that you get, and it's very relaxing. And I think that everyone at a basic human level can feel that.
Great thoughts. Thank you both. So also with this in line, when we talk about non-formal education, sometimes it's something as basic as passing the information to our friends or family. One of the questions from the audience was if we had examples of ways we've been able to pass and influence our friends and family about environmental education. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. Daniela, do you have any examples?
Yes, of course. The biggest thing that I achieved, I can say, in my family especially, is that we already did lots of things for the environment, I can say, in regards to recycling. I guess lots of people are doing in regards of those kind of matters, but I believe that food and the way we buy food is one of the hardest things to change, because it's like our culture is something that we normally do, and it's extremely enrooted in us, and it's very difficult to change them. But my family is it was a very meat consumer, so we would consume lots of meat and lots of fish, not that many vegetables. And I throughout lots of environmental education sessions with the family, I was able to explain them the problem that we should be eating what we want, but in a very balanced way, and in a very sustainable, with a sustainable point of view. So now we reduce the meat consumption. We still eat meat, but it's very reduced. And in regards to fishing, we use actually the WWF guide to when we go buy fish, and you can see what type of fish you should buy in each season, the fishing technique that it was used to do a more sustainable choices in our home. So that was extremely important, and it was difficult, but now we achieved this, and I'm very happy with that.
Okay, great. Elliott?
I think I have a very similar experience also to do with food. Like once you start practicing what you're preaching, which is, for example, for environmentalists, we try to use less plastic. We try to eat more sustainable foods. Some of your friends and family are going to catch on to that. They're going to ask you like, why are you doing this? And then you can explain to them, right? This is what we have in our country, like the biodiversity or the environments, and we're trying to protect it through this simple, easy way that you can use in your daily lives, right? Just find out where your food's coming from, how it's being harvested, and then make conscious choices. I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, right? It's actually quite a tough thing to do. After some time, yeah, some of your beer.
Okay, thank you. So bearing this in mind, so about what we talk about food, but taking it to conservation again, maybe sometimes social and economic aspects have a great impact on the way we do our choices. So sometimes it's not that easy to choose what to eat, and sometimes it's not that easy to get to people about conservation and the importance of it because of social issues that come along that are more important, or economic aspects that come on the way. And education can be a very practical and cost-effective tool, but sometimes its success depends on social and economical and ecological aspects that we must have into account. and I think it's greatly influenced by society and the economic environment that we have in each country. So how do you think these three things are related: society, economy, and conservation for biodiversity? Elliott, maybe can you start?
Yeah, sure. I think environmental issues are always interlinked with societal and economic issues, and we can't prioritize one over the other. Like they all have to be resolved simultaneously, like together. And for us, it might seem very straightforward for us, right? If animals are in danger, we need to save them. But other people living around us who are not as passionate about biodiversity or don't have the same kind of knowledge will struggle to understand that. Like, why must I prioritize nature over my financial needs or societal needs of other people? And the key to, so for example, in Singapore, we have a very big problem with land use because we're a very small island and we have development needs, right? In order to grow the economy, in order to provide good facilities for everyone else. But we also want to conserve our nature spaces. So this is always in conflict. And one key way to like help people understand what we stand to lose by developing too many green spaces is if you show them, well, if we keep clearing these forests and also our marine areas, then we'll have to spend more and more money dealing with the consequences of that. And the loss of biodiversity does cost us money and also causes health problems. In Singapore, it's caused a lot of human-wildlife conflict with animals entering people's homes, people getting injured as well. And then, as we all know, COVID-19 is indirectly a result from our, how we treat our environment, right? Deforestation, degradation of the environment. Yeah. So that's how, I guess, everything is interlinked.
Okay, great. Daniela, what are your thoughts?
Yes. Okay, so basically we can't separate the three of them. So when we talk about sustainable development, we talk about economy, society, and the environment. They are all interlinked, and environmental education must be a boost for economy and for society. We can, like Elliott said, you can prioritize one over the other. When you do that, you're basically saying to people that don't have their basic needs satisfied with food, with hygiene, access to transportation, to put animals first. That's not right. We need to, it's a very big ball that it's all interconnected. And what we need to do is find the solutions for those people that will bring them, will prioritize nature conservation and also people's needs and the development. I really like a very good example of what happened in Cape Verde with the turtles. So there were poachers that were gathering the sea turtles for money, because that's what they have to sustain their family. And you can just say, no, okay, we're going to illegalize this and we're going to put fees that people can't afford. And that's not the way to go, because that's how they keep food in the table. So it's very, for us in Occidental countries, let's say, it's very easy to say, okay, so don't do that. You can do this other thing, but that's not a real option for them. So what environmental education can do and have a great power is that there was a project in that island that brought the people, the local people, to participate, and the hunters that were gathering the turtles for sale, to do a positive change and explain that the living animals would probably be more of an income for them. So now these poachers that were selling the turtles are now the ones that do tourist guides for people to see the hatchlings and see the turtles on the beach, because they are the ones that have the greater knowledge of where things are happening. They are putting their eggs in these kinds of beaches. So let's bring people into seeing them and into being engaged in protecting wildlife. So when you bring this knowledge, this sort of local knowledge into conservation and into education, you have much greater success, and you need to find the solutions, not only for nature, but we are part of the nature, we are part of the environment. It's not, don't touch anything and it's okay. No, we are part of that world. So we need to find the solutions for people also.
Yeah, great point of view. So we have to adapt undoubtedly the education to our social environment as well. So people are not the same, cultures are not the same, and we don't we look for the same goal, but we have to find different tools to achieve it, and that's okay. So about these tools, one of the questions from the audience was, what tools can we actually use, and what have you worked with to get young people and adults to know more about their local nature and to know what they can do about conservation and to raise awareness? How do you think you can actually influence behavior, and what specific tool do you use? So I'd like to hear some examples of what activities do you develop to achieve this. Daniela, if you want to start, go.
Okay, I can go first. So the more powerful tool that we have is experience, I guess. We need to connect people with nature. How we do that? Let them experience nature. So even that is very easy to talk when you're in a countryside, right? So you go to nature, you do nature exploration, nature walks, and that is extremely important. But when you're in a city, that's also possible. You have local parks, and sometimes the small biodiversity that you see with insects, with birds, with plants, it is extremely important. And what I've experienced personally is that you can talk with people about nature in books and show them lots of beautiful movies and pictures, but when people experience nature firsthand, something changes, something clicks, and that is the biggest tool, because they're, okay, so this insect is doing that, and it's extremely beautiful, and then they are going to seek more information, and when you seek information, you are empowered to make a change. So that's the ultimate tool. So I depend a lot on experiencing hands-on experiences with storytelling. I think that it works pretty good also when you can bring, like I work with students in a classroom setting, and when you do storytelling, then they are able to impersonate different animals, different characters. They are putting themselves in this kind of role. So that is extremely powerful too.
Great. Elliott?
Yeah, so I think Daniela did a great job of talking about how like nature experiences are very important, and I also do a lot of that. But I'm going to talk about what I do in addition to that. So I find that for me, photography is a very, very powerful tool. Images, the right types of images can really evoke feelings in people and make people want to make some change. In addition to that, right, you can't keep your photography to yourself. So social media is a very, very powerful tool. I think right now it's very, very easy to get your images or your ideas out there and actually spread it to a huge group of people that you don't even know. So I'd say for, our generation, right, or even those younger than us or even those older than us as well, use social media to your full advantage. And if you can take pictures while you're at it, please go ahead. And you can use a smartphone. You don't even need to own a camera nowadays. You can use a smartphone and get really clear photos as well.
Okay, thank you. So, and do you think that sometimes having the media to tell us that imagine a certain animal and maybe exotic animals are in extinction, we are more eager to somehow help save those animals than our local ones? And maybe sometimes we forget that some of our local animals are disappearing, and that is there's as an importance as big saving those animals than other animals of other areas of the planet. So do you think people might prefer saving more exotic animals compared to local ones? And if that happens, why? Elliott, maybe if you want to start.
Yeah, I think in the past, that's probably more true than it is now. Because in the past, we used to get a lot of our interaction with nature from like nature documentaries. I mean, we still do now. You see a lot about Africa, a lot about South America as well. But at least in Singapore nowadays, we're doing a lot more environmental education. It's a very up and coming kind of thing. People are getting to know more and more about our native biodiversity. We're showing them what's endangered. We're trying to make them as cute as possible, even if they're not. So you can evoke some kind of feelings to protect these animals. So I think it's not a big problem here, but you have to try harder to get people to conserve local animals. I mean, those that are not, I mean, internationally famous. You have to put in the effort. You have to really make it known to everyone, right? So the main, how to say, the hard work is in getting people out there and showing them what we have. Once they know that they have these animals very close to where they live, then it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Daniela, do you want to add anything?
No, I agree with Elliott that it's not a big problem now, because we are more rooted into environmental education in our own countries. But definitely the bigger species, like let's talk about elephants and lions, of course, they are what we call flagship species for others. And that is important, I guess. A flagship species is a species that we can use to bring attention to others. And we must do that in our own local habitats. So for instance, here in Portugal, we have lots of smaller species that are not that known to people, but we can use the Iberian lynx, for instance. That is one of our megafauna. It's really attractive, and we have them. We have lots of environmental education around it to bring attention to Montado. That is an ecosystem here in Portugal that is only existing in Portugal and in Spain. So we can use them to protect the whole ecosystem. We can use the species to bring attention to it. We do that at the zoo all the time. So we have exotic species, and because we have lots of plants and it's almost like a green corridor in the city, we have local wildlife coming, birds and insects, and we can be doing a program with exotic animals. And then we have this similarity with these birds that we have here in our own gardens. We must protect them. So it's very important to do that. And once people realized what they have in their backyard, it's not that easy to want to protect them, because it's closer to them, like Elliott said.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Great points from both of you. So to sum up all this conversation, since we are heading up to the final minutes, I would like to ask you if you think biodiversity conservation should be inclusive. So not only include all species that need to be protected, but inclusive in the way that we include everyone in all aspects of age and culture. So do you think it is important to have not only quality education, but also inclusive education for conservation? So Elliott, if you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I think it's really very important, and we can't save the world by ourselves, right? We need help from as many people as possible. And this is especially true from conservation, because environmentalists are not a huge group of people. We really need to reach out to those that are have more power or have more say over things. So that's why we find a lot of conservationists working with lawmakers, working with, I don't know, development, contractors, people in transport, right? All sectors of society. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy for us to get trapped in our own bubble, right? Just spreading the same awareness or educating people that are already interested in the environment. What we really need to start doing is reaching out to people who aren't even interested in the environment and try to get them interested and appreciate biodiversity, our ecosystems. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, I totally agree with Elliott, of course, but I will add that it's also extremely important to work with, to focus on two things that Joana basically said. One is local people, so indigenous people, they have lots and lots of knowledge that when we come with a project and you don't take that local knowledge, it's not possible to make a real change, because they are the ones that are going to live with the project and continue it. So you must really engage them. And the other, as we are talking about inclusive, I must address the gender role of conservation. So women are much more impacted by habitat degradation, for instance, and because they are the ones, especially in more underdevelopment countries, that are affected by it, and they are the ones that are least hurt in these issues. So when you have lawmakers and when you have projects, they are not usually included, but they have the major roles in the biodiversity conservation issues, because they are the ones that most often are the cultivators, are the children educators, are the livestock. How do you say? Sorry, I lost the word. The livestock Sorry, maybe you can help me. I lost my English somewhere. They are the ones that bring the livestock help with that.
Maybe I don't know exactly what you want to say, but the livestock might maybe the importance of it and the
they are the keepers basically.
Yeah.
Yes, they are the ones that produce them in underdevelopment countries. In other countries like Portugal, they are the ones that still do the shopping at home. So they are the ones that have lots of power as a consumer. And this gender is still least represented in conservation issues. So conservation must be inclusive in gender, in age, in culture. It must embrace all aspects of society.
Great points coming out of this final question. So thank you both. I think we all conclude that inclusive is essential, and also non-formal, informal education, gathering social and economic aspects to have a more effective conservation education is key. Thank you both of you. Christina?
Yeah, thank you so much, all three of you. I mean, I could feel the passion all the way through my screen, and I know that you could keep talking for hours about this really important topic. You made some fantastic good points, and I think it really sparked some thoughts in our audience. At least the chat was going wild, and yeah. So I just want to say thank you again so much for joining. We'll have a next conversation also on this stage in 30 minutes. It will be some EcoCampus students discussing. So maybe you speakers also want to see that and join that, because it is these kind of discussions that we really need, and it's fantastic that we can connect all over the world on these online platforms. So thanks again from me, and yeah, see you around.
Thank you so much for having us.